What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they head into the weekend, week 4, Indianapolis Colts. A game that, you thought was going to be close, and then people started running their mouth. Now you're thinking maybe it's not going to be as close in this one. We'll dive into I want to say successful injury report, but still a massive loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 4. Meanwhile, a change is officially coming to the Steelers offensive line. We'll dive into what that is and, why at this point I'm kind of on board with the decisions that they're making. And we'll cap it off with an Indianapolis Colts player who clearly does not know the history of the terrible towel, who has no idea what happens when one talks smack on a terrible towel, and, is destined to find out on Sunday what happens when one does talk smack on a terrible towel. Nick, it's a rainy one here in the Berg, but that's all right. It's the weekend. It's Friday afternoon, and the Pittsburgh Steelers play football in just a couple of days, so I'll ask you as I do every day. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling great. Ready to lock in and talk Pittsburgh Steelers. Ready to give our picks later in this show.
True.
But, it took me a second this morning. Waking up, I've been watching that Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix, and I am fully engulfed in that world. So I had to take a second and kind of switch on and off from like wrestling to, all right, I should probably do my day job and actually get some work done. Or Noah's probably going to be like, hey, what's going on? There's nothing going out. So, a little bit of my mind is still in that world, but I'm ready to talk football.
That's all right. We've all had those days, those weeks where, you're just sitting there and you're just like, oh, man, all I am thinking about is the television show that I stopped watching an hour ago. Yeah, no, I feel you there. My day's going well. I'll tell you this. You asked about it before we jumped on the pod. You said 5.5 was a great number last night. Let me tell you how my night on DraftKings Sportsbook played out. So went to dinner last night. Me and Jillian, me and the wife, we're sitting there, we're eating dinner, and I'm like, oh, the game's about to start. Let's make some bets while we're waiting for our food. It's like, all right, yeah, cool. Sounds good. So I pull it up and I go, all right, you got 2 ones here. I think one's a little bit riskier than the other, but I still think both are good bets. I mean, you got the Dallas Cowboys are, in my mind, not going to win this football game. I was like, so you could go the Giants money line, or you could go Giants 5.5. I think either one of those are going to hit. You tell me what you're feeling. She said, always got to go with the money line. You always got to go with the money line. I went money line, went to bed, didn't finish watching the game, woke up to Micah Parsons with a high ankle sprain, which I thought was the news. I was like, all right, there it is. Like, that's massive. Wrote that whole story and then went to go look to see when it happened. And when I looked, I realized the final score was 20-15 Dallas Cowboys. So I lost the money line. And, that 5.5 that I told every single person on this channel to bet on yesterday, it hit. You're all welcome. I took the loss, and I wasn't feeling real good about it this morning.
You got to trust your instincts, man. What are we doing? Like, you should know that by now. How long have we been doing this? How many times have you told a similar story like this on the pod? True. Saying, I gave you guys a bet last night. It hit. I didn't bet it, and I lost. Well, at some point, it's your fault. I mean, it is always your fault.
It is my fault. But I just think that I think that's what I have to do. I have to be the guy that loses the bets so that you guys all win the bets. And I will bear that sword. If that's what we need to do, I will bear that sword. Don't feel good about it. It sucks every time you look at the DraftKings account and you go, I got to break out the debit card this weekend again, huh? That's awesome. But, if you guys still win.
At what point do we start printing out Moneyline Jesus shirts with your face on them? I mean, it's kind of confusing because you have to go bet the opposite, kind of like you had to fade Moneyline Jesus, but
you do have to fade. You always have to fade me. You always have to. That is the rule 1 of betting, is when I tell you to bet, listen to me, but ask what I'm going to bet, because chances are it's not going to be what I tell you.
It's going to be the opposite.
Chances are what I told you to do, what I ignored, it's going to hit. So best of luck. Moneyline Jesus is a good t-shirt, but look at, man, shout out to Jillian. She doesn't know yet. She doesn't know what the final score of the game was. And I'll let her know tonight. All right. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. They approach week 4 against the Indianapolis Colts, a game that is going to feature everybody when we thought nobody was going to play. A very long injury report started the week. A much better injury report ends the week. Russell Wilson is questionable once again, the least surprising questionable tag, the least notable questionable tag in the entire NFL. Meanwhile, Jaylen Warren, Alex Highsmith, and Michael Pruitt all out in week 4, and Isaac Seumalo leaves the door cracked, but is doubtful. And while we saw Alex Highsmith and Michael Pruitt coming this week, Jaylen Warren was a guy that everybody kind of held out hope for. You didn't think it was going to happen. Now it's officially done. I don't know where the Steelers go to replace him because, I mean, I'll tell you, I'll drop a little secret here on the podcast. You go into the locker room, you look for the bags. You look for the travel bags. Hey, who's getting a bag? I think the Steelers picked up on the fact that we know who gets the travel bags. They stopped putting them out for practice squad guys, so you don't know what way to go. I will say, I believe from what I have been told and just the knowledge that I have, the Steelers will go one of two ways. They'll either hold off on calling up a running back and use this as a reason to put Roman Wilson on the field for the first time in his NFL career, or they will replace Jaylen Warren with Aaron Shapklin, Harvard standout, a dude who I hope one day I get to interview this guy just one-on-one in a situation that means something so I could ask meaningful questions and then finish it off with, what did you major in at Harvard? Because I'm really curious to know whether it was just general communications or if you're out here as a doctor from Harvard and we just don't know these things. But either way, Jaylen Warren officially out, massive loss. I don't think he's super banged up. I believe it's more so of a Steelers want to be cautious. They are 3-0. They are going against a team that they feel kind of confident in. They don't need Jaylen Warren this week. It's not a do or die situation. They will hold him off. They will keep him healthy, especially with back-to-back injuries, hamstring, and then the knee. You're looking at this going, let's protect him for the playoffs. Let's protect him for later in the season. If he's on your fantasy team, cut him because he's not going to do much this season. But the Steelers will protect him. Not a serious injury, but one they will be cautious with. And cautious in a real way, not cautious in a Russell Wilson type of way. Really cautious, actually cautious for a player that they believe is going to come back. Aaron Shapklin will be the replacement. Your thoughts on Jaylen Warren? No-go in week 4. And then Aaron Shapklin potentially getting the call up.
Yeah, the loss of Jaylen Warren is tough, especially early in the season. I'm sure he's very frustrated because he just gets back from the hamstring injury. He's starting to ramp up. And you saw it in week 2 and then in week 3. You could tell that explosion was coming back. And then, of course, this happens. So now he's missing some time. It's unfortunate, especially for a team in the Steelers who have really tried to build their identity around this 2-back system and this bully ball offensive line. Well, we've seen what the offensive line has done. We'll talk about a little bit of an adjustment coming later. And now we see one of their running backs go out. So it's tough to see. But like you mentioned it, right now, it's all about getting them healthy. We all know and we've all focused on the fact that the second half of the season is going to be brutal. You want to be as healthy as possible when that comes down the pike. You want to get your wins now, but you want to be healthy for that second half. Right now, the Steelers are getting the wins. So sitting down Warren and telling him, hey, you're not going to play in week 4. Try to rest him up, get him 100%. It's what's in the best interest of the team. Although I'm sure Warren is probably chomping at the bit and will be chomping at the bit to get out there over the next week and a half leading up to the Dallas Cowboys game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, there's just no sense of urgency right now. If there was, you make tougher decisions, but this is not a team. I mean, the AFC North has shaped out where the Pittsburgh Steelers have to feel somewhat strong in the lead that they have. They have a good running back in Najee Harris. They seem to have another good running back in Cordero Patterson, who I spoke to for the first time today. And that guy, big ball of sunshine, first of all, and also hilarious. Like, he started off the press conference or the interview by going, yeah, I wouldn't want to kick to me too. I was like, that was awesome. That was awesome. And then he later ended it with, I wouldn't want to tackle me either. And I mean, that was pretty incredible. But they have two guys that they could count on. They feel confident in Justin Fields. They feel confident in this offense. They think that they could do big things even without Jaylen. In years past, you are pushing Jalen as far as you can, but right now where the Steelers stand, there's not much of a need to kind of force the issue. And the Steelers don't want to force anything right now because they'd rather have options later in the season, and the injury bug has hit them already. I mean, they lost Nate Herbig. They lost Isaac Seumalo. They've lost Troy Fautanu. They've sitting here waiting for Cole Holcomb. Dante Jackson is dealing with the shoulder injury still that he's hoping is good to go, but and should be good to go, but you just never know if he's getting banged up week after week. And then Corey Trice is on IR. They've already been hit with injuries. They don't want more of them. They'd rather sit here and say, look, at one of our key pieces, we could wait and take our time. Protect a player now before you have to protect a player later because he did some bad stuff. Isaac Seumalo, door is open. Doubtful. I would say doubtful is about as close to out as this doubtful tag is about as close to out as one could get. Mason McCormick is going to be the guy, which leads us to our second topic of conversation, which is the Steelers are officially tossing another rookie into the lineup this week on the offensive side of the ball. Mason McCormick will join Zach Frazier as the left guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Only a matter of time. I'll say this. I couldn't tell why. Like, I was sitting there and I was like, this is just bothering me. I'm a Spencer Anderson fan. I think Spencer Anderson's got upside. I don't get why you're making a move. And then I said, okay, I have to sit down and I just have to really dive into Spencer Anderson film over the last couple of weeks. And if the Steelers are looking to be a run-heavy team, Mason McCormick is the guy, and he is the way to go about this, and he is the dude who makes the most sense right now. Now, is it going to work out? I have no idea, but Spencer Anderson in the run game was struggling the last 2 weeks, and I'm a massive Spencer Anderson fan. Like, I think a dude who comes out here as a 7th-round pick, who makes a name for himself, who earns the starting job, who is a rotational piece, who is going to stick around on this roster for a couple of years, that's impressive. I got all the props to that guy that you could possibly give. But he shouldn't be the starting left guard if the Steelers are relying on their running game. Maybe Mason McCormick is. That's what Mason McCormick's specialty is. And then you just kind of go from there. He's an athletic dude. He's a bully ball. I don't know if he's going to succeed as a starter right away, but that is the guy. Do you have any qualms, worries, or excitements for Mason McCormick in the starting lineup?
The one thing I do like about McCormick, and it was talked about earlier this week by by Mike Tomlin. He likes the way that Mason McCormick finishes blocks.
Yes.
That happens mostly in the running game. I mean, everybody the first 3 weeks of the season has been highlighting. This is the most center highlights I've seen on Steelers Twitter in my lifetime. It's all Zach Frazier. Why? Because he's finishing these blocks on the ground. You're going to get more of that with Mason McCormick. So in that aspect, good. But at the same time, there's always going to be that concern. This is a rookie making his first career start. He dipped his toes in the water last week with that rotation at left guard, but this is something different. You're going out there, first snap of the ball, you have to set the tone. Is he going to be able to do that? And now that there's a little bit of tape on him, how much are the Indianapolis Colts going to go after him and that spot at left guard? Because between him and Frazier, it's inexperience. And sometimes defensive coordinators target that. Will they this weekend? That's going to be one of the biggest things that I'm going to be watching out for, but excited for the kid. This is somebody who endeared himself to the fan base early on whenever that fight happened, stepping up for Justin Fields in training camp. So excited to see him on the back end of that, get some opportunities here early in the season.
That's true. I totally forgot that Mason McCormick was just as deep as one could get in trying to fight Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts, which are two terrifying human beings, and just said, all right, screw it, let's do it. Let's see. I'm here to brawl. We brawl. And I agree. I think this is a good opportunity. It's not too much. It's not the worst situation. Kwity Paye is also out, which helps the Steelers offensive line as a whole, which, just in his absence will help Mason McCormick, even if they're not lining up one-on-one against each other. This is a team that if the Steelers are going to test the waters in this guy, if the Steelers are going to see what they have in a rookie, yeah, why not? A little early in his career, I think so, but not a situation that I am overly worried about, but one that everybody should be aware is going to happen. All right. When we come back, I want to talk about a Colts linebacker who has never paid attention to the history of the terrible towel, who has never once watched somebody else talk smack on the terrible towel and decided, you know what he's going to do? you know what I'm going to do to start this week off? I'm going to talk smack on the terrible towel. So shout out to him. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, we got a word from our boys over at DraftKings. It's football season, and we've teamed up with DraftKings. Right now, you can get involved in even more action with DraftKings Pick6, a brand new way to play daily fantasy sports. And the best part, all new customers who play $5 will get $50 in Pick6 credits. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Pick6 app now. Sign up with our code ALLSTEELERS and get kicking. Only on DraftKings Pick6, the crown is yours. Getting started is simple. Just download the DraftKings Pick6 app and sign up with our code ALLSTEELERS. From there, just pick at least 2 players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Lock them in and compete against others for a shot at a huge cash prize. Download the DraftKings Pick6 app now and sign up with our code ALLSTEELERS only on DraftKings Pick6. The crown is yours. Shout out our boys over at DraftKings. Can we play a song on here? Or do you think we're going to get hit with copyright?
It depends what song. I think I know what song you're thinking of, and I'm not sure if that song is covered under copyright. If it's one that it was mentioned in the comments here a couple seconds ago.
Oh, I want to say it is. I want to say it's not. I want to feel like we might be okay, but maybe it is. I think we take the risk.
All right.
I think we take the risk. You set that up. I will lead into Zaire Franklin real fast. So during the week, the Indianapolis Colts, man, for a team that is 1-3, talks a lot of smack. They've at one point said that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a plan to shut down TJ Watt. Probably don't have that. And then decided that somebody's going to take the lead. Team captain here, which in Pittsburgh, the team captain doesn't talk smack. Okay, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Cam Hayward, Miles Killebrew, they are the most level-headed, media-savvy veterans on the team. They're the guys that you never have to worry about literally anything. And in Indianapolis, it's just not the same. Zaire Franklin, inside linebacker, said, quote, "I know the Pittsburgh fans, they are going to try and come in here. They like to travel, so I'm looking forward to us fighting back. It is always a talented and tough team when we play Pittsburgh. We know the brand of football that they like to play, but it's our house, and we make the rules." He went on to say that he wants to get his hands on a terrible towel and that he hopes that Colts fans do the same. Let me ask you, because I got a lot of thoughts on this one. Did that immediately solidify a win for the Pittsburgh Steelers when you heard that quote?
It might not have immediately solidified the win, but it certainly solidified to me that the Indianapolis Colts are going absolutely nowhere. I mean, last year, it wasn't direct. It wasn't immediate. But since that happened, you saw what's happened, right? I mean, you mentioned the Jaguars, I believe, 3-9 since they did that. And yeah, they got the win in Pittsburgh, but then they missed the playoffs. They're 0-3, and their quarterback that's supposed to be an all-timer is struggling to start the season. So, again, I told you before the show, who doesn't look at this? And I understand some people need something to get pumped up.
Yeah.
Why are you putting bulletin board material up there when you're a home underdog? Like, I get it. Partially, what do you have to lose? But you're 1-2 guys, and your defense has not been all that good. Do what you want to do, but understand that there are repercussions to these things. And again, it is the terrible towel. When you do it, I got one sitting right next to me, always and forever. So whenever you do something like that, just know what's coming your direction.
It makes no sense to me. And I'm a guy who covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's very difficult for me to have an understanding of whether or not this is normal across the NFL, because in Pittsburgh, it's not. It's not normal. It's not even close to normal, actually. Nobody talks smack. George Pickens talks smack on the Jaguars, and it became the biggest thing in the world because that was just so unheard of. You were like, there's beef right now between two teams, and one being the Pittsburgh Steelers and their players. It's not something that happens. Nobody throws jabs. Nobody does anything. No, everybody is so respectful and media savvy in Pittsburgh that it just stuns me when it's not the same elsewhere. But this one's different. You're 1-2. Your win comes against the Chicago Bears, which is the least impressive win in football right now. You have a quarterback that is struggling. You can't stay on the football field to save your life, and you're playing a 3-0 team, but you didn't piss off Justin Fields. That's not who you pissed off. You didn't piss off Mason McCormick and Zach Frazier. They could care less. They don't even know what a terrible towel is yet. They've seen him one time. You pissed off TJ Watt. You pissed off Cam Hayward. You pissed off Minka Fitzpatrick. You pissed off Joey Porter Jr. and Nick Herbig and Keanu Benton and Larry Ogunjobi and those guys. That's who you pissed off. And Jason Kelce told a story one time. I remember, I forget what podcast it was on. It might have been his, about how the guys on his offensive line used to just talk so much smack. Oh, no, actually, I take that back. Brandon Graham used to talk so much smack that when they'd walk out as the captains, Brandon Graham would talk smack to the other captains. And Jason Kelce would look at him and say, will you stop pissing off the defensive tackles here? That's what Anthony Richardson should do to Zaire Franklin, is say, look at dude, you're not the one that's going to end up on his butt because TJ Watt is having the game of his life because you're out here grabbing terrible towels. So please stop it. It's the worst thing. You could talk smack on Justin Fields. You could talk smack on the defense. You could call out Mike Tomlin. You could do a billion things. What you don't do in Pittsburgh is call out the terrible towel and call out the fan base. I don't know why, but they take it more personal than if you call themselves out. You could tell TJ Watt he sucks. He's going to be more angry that you touched a terrible towel. I promise you. It makes no sense to me that people continue to do this. And I have a really good feeling that the Steelers are going to prove why once again in Indianapolis, who is now playing with the terrible towel curse that everybody knows of, with a second-year quarterback that is struggling, a running back that's now worth $1 billion, and you got to hope nothing happens there, and an offensive line that is now beat up, and a season that is crumbling before their eyes. Just doesn't feel like a team that should be messing with curses, and Zaire Franklin is. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have put it better myself. I mean, whenever I look at it, at the end of the day, people are going to do what they're going to do. These are professional athletes. A lot of them are superstitious. Some aren't superstitious. I think it's fair to say Zaire Franklin is not superstitious if this is the angle that he took for putting up billboard material this week.
Yeah, and look at Mike Tomlin is as petty as it gets. I could guarantee you that was used in team meetings this week. Guarantee you that was used somewhere along that locker room or within the locker room or within team meetings or somewhere throughout the week. And it will be used on Sunday. I guarantee you that somebody makes a comment come Sunday after the Pittsburgh Steelers if the Pittsburgh Steelers walk away winners. Ridiculous. All right. It's my favorite time of the week. Let's dive into our picks and predictions for week 4. But first, if we possibly could, let's play that video. Maybe. If it's working.
There we
go. Coming.
This is our Colts. This is our team. We bleed blue. This is our Colts. Whether win or lose, we love them. For the shoe, beat the Steelers. Let's steal another victory. This is our team. Go Colts!
Did he edit the knee into there? Is that a little edit at the end of that?
I think like a little edit at the end of that.
That's not authentic. He's getting tired in week 4. What are you doing?
Listen, as content creators, sometimes you got to pull the curtain back and sometimes you need to save the vocal cords. There's a lot of games to go. He does a new one of these every week. I mean, all credit to the flow.
No.
All credit to the flow. So I like it. I like it. He's passionate.
I'm a huge fan of the guy. You could, again, we talk about my wife all the time on the show because she sees all my chaos. I walk around the house most days singing his songs. And I don't watch Colts games, but I walk around the house since week 1. This is our Colts. This is our team. We bleed blue. I let out a neigh all the time. just randomly. Just sometimes I did it the other day going to bed. I was crawling into bed and just started singing the song. But I'm sorry. I'm upset that he edited that out. I'm upset. And if anything, adds a little bit more to the unauthenticity, the bad luck that the Colts have coming this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. Let's dive into picks and predictions. Week 4, Pittsburgh Steelers, Indianapolis Colts. It'll be a good one. I'm still excited. Lucas Oil Stadium always brings the energy. It's one of the best stadiums in football. The Steelers are dealing with some injuries. The Colts are also dealing with some injuries. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by no means, even if I thought last week was going to be against the Chargers. But as I say that, maybe my answer is changing. What do we got? Let's go over under week 4, Pittsburgh Steelers, Indianapolis Colts.
If you head over to DraftKings Sportsbook, the over-under right now is at 40, much higher than it's been in weeks past for the Pittsburgh Steelers games, but the Steelers are on the road 2-point favorites against the 1-2 Indianapolis Colts.
Okay. I'm going to let you go first again. I think you went first last week. What was your prediction last week? I was close. Can we please acknowledge how close I actually was? Because for one, if Justin Herbert doesn't play, the end of that game is 20-0. Let's not act like it isn't. But the end of that game is 20-0. And 20-10 is not terribly off. Not terribly off by no means. And it would have been 27-10. So, all right. Let's go. This one, 40.
To answer your question, last week I had 17-16 Steelers.
Unreal. Still one. We're still both. You're 2-1. I'm 3-0 on the season. Let's see if we can keep it trucking here. I might live and die off Pittsburgh Steelers wins and losses at this point in the year, but it's all right. It's early. What do we got? What do you got?
All right. For this game, I was trying to think about it because obviously you look at what the Steelers went up against last week in the LA Chargers defense, and for a point, they were pretty stifling. And the one thing the Chargers did really well is open field tackling. They were able to get guys down. There were not many, broken tackles on the Steelers offensive side of the ball. This week, I see a little bit more of that. If you go back to week 1, 0 touchdowns for the Steelers. Week 2, they had 1, and week 3, they had 2. Let's keep ramping this one up. I think they get 3 offensive touchdowns this week, and I think they finish this one off with a 27-13 victory over the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow, 27-13 victory over the. See, now you're shooting for the stars. Now you're what you're doing here is you're putting me in the corner to say you're going to get ballsier than 27-13, and maybe I am, maybe I'm not. That was a good pick. 27-13. You're hitting the over. You're just.
Oh, I'm not. I'm hitting the push.
You're hitting.
Hey
the
Dog
push.
says that's the push. It's exactly 40 points.
Nobody likes the push.
No.
Nobody likes the push. All right. I'm going to go. I think Indianapolis gets in the end zone. I do. I think Indianapolis gets in the end zone at least one time. The Steelers defense started slow last week. Nick Herbig hopefully is a monster, but it's still a big what if on that defense because you don't have Alex Highsmith, who's a very reliable name. You're very slim at corner right now. Don't know what's going to go on there. Where's Terrell Edmonds going to play, and can he mix in there? Can he make a mistake? You don't know. I'm going to say Indianapolis scores. I'm going to say they get on the board at least once. 13 is a good point total for them. I like 13 as a point total for them. But at the same time, they don't have I'm going 10. I'm going 10 for the Indianapolis Colts. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, 27, man. Like now you got me thinking, am I going to go higher than 20? I don't think they score more than 27 points, but I do think they score more than 20. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers get in the end zone 3 times in this game. I think Chris Boswell hits a nice field goal. I'll go 24-10. I like 27, but I'm going to go 24-10 because I don't want to even out there. I don't want to even out. I'm going to go 24-10 Pittsburgh Steelers over the Indianapolis Colts. This is a good one. This is I'll say this, Justin Fields' best running game of the season coming up in week 4, and a normal person scores a touchdown for the Pittsburgh Steelers at least once in this one. I'm not talking to Justin Fields rushing touchdown. I'm talking Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens, one of those 3 finally get in the end zone in this one. If I had to guess, maybe I'm not even going to guess because he can't guess at this point. When it's Calvin Austin and Darnell Washington, there are no guesses. I'm just saying one of the normal people score a touchdown in this one. 24-10 Pittsburgh Steelers.
So you know what's going to happen now, because you are showing that you are a mush when it comes to sports betting, is it's going to be Scotty, Van, and maybe I was going to say Mason McCormick gets in as the extra
Spencer
tackle,
Anderson gets benched and catches a touchdown.
Yeah. So because you said that, it's going to be some maybe Aaron Shamklin gets in there for one play and he takes it to the house. But because you said that,
awesome.
I'm betting all the long shots because you said one of the normal guys is scoring this weekend.
No, what you have to do is bet the normal guys, because I'm going to bet the long shots. I'm going to be sitting there right before the game and I'm going, I don't know, man, Hot Rod plus 10,000 odds feels real good right now. And I might put a buck on there. So I would stick with what I say, because you can trust that I'm not going to do that. And it's gonna hit. Like I could guarantee you there's no chance I go on DraftKings before the game and I bet Najee Harris, George Pickens, or Pat Freiermuth anytime touchdown. I'll guarantee that one. I don't do that. I don't even think about it.
And now I can't stop thinking about hearing Chris Berman on NFL Primetime Sunday night going, and it's Aaron Shamklin from Harvard, when he scores inevitably his one touchdown.
It's gonna happen. Shout out Aaron Shamklin. Good dude. Very excited. All right, 24-10, 27-13. Both of us predict a nice win for the Pittsburgh Steelers to move them 4-0. With that said, let's dive into the weekend with some questions. We got a bunch of them. We'll answer all of them, so make sure you toss them in the chat. First, we got a word from our boys over at Mando, though. My guys, you ever lift just a little too hard and forget to apply that daily deodorant only to get hit by a truckload of BO later in the day? Well, does that 3-in-1 shampoo ever leave you needing a second shower? Here we go. From the founders of Lumi, Mando Whole Body Deodorant is helping men conquer their odor in a new way. Formulated with mandelic acid, Mando has long-lasting 72-hour odor control that actually stops odor before it starts. And the best part is you can put Mando everywhere. Pits, packages, feet, skin folds, backs of knees, everywhere. To top it off, Mando's cologne quality scents are created with men in mind. And well, I'll give you a pro tip. Try their best-selling scent, Bourbon Leather. It's an absolute game changer. I will tell you that I got the package. My wife immediately goes, I could smell that box from over here. And I won't lie to you, I opened it up. I haven't turned back since. I only use Mando from here on out. Let me tell you about the Mando starter pack. It's the perfect thing for new customers. It comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Luckily, I have a discount code to help you get hooked up on your favorite smelling body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Just use the code ALLSteelers at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. It's time to smell better naked. Your partner will thank you. Shout out our boys over at Mando. All right. For the last time this week, week 4, Pittsburgh Steelers, Indianapolis Colts. Excited to get into the game. Excited that we got the Colts video in. I can't believe we went all week and didn't play the Colts video multiple times throughout this show, if we're going to be honest. That just seems like something we would do. We'll be better next time. Don't worry. Let's dive into some questions. If you have them, toss them in the chat. We'll answer all of them before we head out of here. What do we got?
Let's start with the artist formerly known as Kayla Belovich, better known today as Kayla Belsky, a.k.a. my wife, who wants to know, can we get tacos for dinner? So I'll throw this into your court, Noah. Should we get tacos for dinner in the Belsky household?
Yo, that's awesome, actually. Can you please can you please tell the audience that you have a made-up last name?
Okay. I guess it technically is, yeah.
What do you mean technically? It's a made-up last name. You made up your last name.
Yeah, my last name is Belsky. It used to be Berlansky. My wife's used to be Belovich. We got married. Both of us wanted to keep parts of our names. So now, first 3 letters of hers, which you can see on screen. Last 3 letters are mine, which you can see on screen at my lower third. So now my name is Belsky because we combined them when we got married.
Yep. Took me probably a month and a half of telling everybody how progressive Nick is because he took his wife's last name and how awesome that is. And then I realized
I did not
actually made up last name.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, Kayla, yeah, dude, go get some tacos.
Tacos? All right. I'll let her know after we get off the show here.
Sounds good.
Let's go over to Dalton, who says, hear me out, Noah and Nick. William Jackson III, if he's healthy, could be a good piece to the back end of the cornerback room. He's talented, and Tomlin obviously likes him because we traded for him 2 years ago.
Yeah. William Jackson was a dude who had some upside. I like the pickup when they made it. I don't like the pickup today. He's been around the NFL. He's tried out for teams since he has left Pittsburgh. He hasn't stuck anywhere. He hasn't gone past the tryout, which tells me that he's not healthy, that the back is still an issue and one that's going to last forever. I don't think he ever plays in the NFL again, unfortunately, which is a really sad day, but I just don't think he's an option for any team right now. I don't, from what I gathered, he's just not, and this is all interpretation. You know, you try out for multiple teams and don't make any of them, chances are your injuries are still lingering, especially when you're a guy as talented as William Jackson III.
Let's go over to Peter, who wants to know, did we ever get a diagnosis for what happened to Ryan Watts?
Just a neck injury. Haven't talked to him about what it was and exactly what happened there. Maybe it's a fracture. I have no idea. They said a stinger originally, turned out to be worse than that. I know it is a neck injury. I just don't know the specifics to it. And, you know, I don't want to speculate, but it's definitely something significant. At one point, he was walking around the locker room in a neck brace. He no longer has a neck brace on, which is great news, and is actually doing some work in Pittsburgh at the facility from time to time. You catch him. So he is progressing, which is really good news.
Let's go over to Alexander, who says, could this end up being a trap game for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Look, it could be. Every game is a trap game, and you should never take any team lightly in the NFL. But all the pieces are there for this not to be a trap game. It's early. The Pittsburgh Steelers still have a bunch of questions. They're not a team that are riding a high horse. They're just not. They're just still a developing team. And to be honest, this team is much more disciplined than they've been. And to be even more honest, I get that Mike Tomlin has always fallen into trap games, but it's been 6 years since Mike Tomlin has had an offensive coordinator worth anything. And maybe that prevents you from falling into trap games because you could score more points and keep your defense off the field. So I'm going to say no to this. Never say never in the NFL, but I have a hard time saying a trap game's coming in week 4 for a team that is still growing and looks like they have much more potential in front of them.
DJ Thomas wants to know, did you see that Davante Adams is out for the Raiders with a hamstring injury? Not sure if the Steelers would trade for him now with an injury and obviously the price tag.
Yeah, you got to see where he's looking in 4 weeks. The Steelers aren't going to make a move for 4 weeks. Let's just, you know, we've said that a number of times. We'll lay it out here again. The trade deadline is when Pittsburgh will make a trade for a wide receiver. I don't see them making one beforehand. I just think they're going to wait it out. Calvin Austin kind of put a cap on that to say, hey, let's see what we got first before we get rid of these guys. I would say it's a wait and see, which maybe Davante Adams is healthier in 4 weeks. Maybe he's not, but it gives you some wiggle room to kind of test the waters and see what happens in that time frame.
Let's jump down to Double R, who says, how many turnovers and who gets them this week?
Hey, appreciate you as always. How many turnovers and who gets them? Well, Anthony Richardson is a turnover machine, so I'm going to say 2 interceptions, which seems to be a trend in Pittsburgh. 2 interceptions. Oh, who gets them? Joey Porter Jr. gets one because Anthony Richardson is ballsy enough to take a shot on him. Joey Porter Jr. gets an interception this week, and he's going to go deep. So I'm going to say Minka gets the other one, but to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Dante Jackson gets his hand on another one. He just seems like a guy who's all over the football at all times.
Listen, this is a plea more so than a prediction. I predicted Minka Fitzpatrick to have 7+ interceptions this year.
You did.
Let's get on the damn board, guys.
You did.
Like, come on, Mink.
Look, what you did not think about is that the Pittsburgh Steelers defense was going to make it impossible for a quarterback to throw to Minka Fitzpatrick. So Here we are.
Let's go over to Samuel, who says, Noah, any chance Russell Wilson will play on Christmas Day so we might have a Sierra versus Taylor Swift media duel? The NFL would break viewing ratings.
Look, and I really hope Taylor Swift and Sierra don't spend their Christmas in Acrisure Stadium. I mean, I'm sure that sounds great and lovely, but I also believe that they're billionaires and they could afford a nice, comfy home Christmas where everyone should be spending Christmas unless you're a Pittsburgh Steelers player or fan. slammed into Acrisure Stadium and probably slammed in general at Acrisure Stadium. I don't think Russ plays in Christmas, but Sierra, I'm shocked we haven't gotten any Sierra coverage at all in any of these games. I don't know if she's there, if she's at these games, but I'm shocked we haven't gotten any glimpses. But then again, I don't think we've ever gotten the big Sierra media attention during a football game.
To be fair, most celebrities haven't until Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
I mean, there's always the one shot that, oh, look who's here, but she's gotten a lot more, which for obvious reasons, but also, if I'm not mistaken, I thought Sierra and Glorilla were in a
they were
last week. They're present. They're present at Acrisure, so we'll have to wait and see. Let's go over to Vibin' with the Dogs, who says, Noah, I watched you on the Believe podcast, and can I just say, your first trip to Indy story was, in all caps, hilarious.
I appreciate that. For those of you who did not see it, check it out on the Believe on Steelers podcast. Just talked about how Mark Caboli, Rich Walsh, Alan Saunders, and Nick Faribault decided that they were just going to make me cry for a quick second in the Indianapolis press box. I won't give any more away. You got to go check it out on the podcast.
Between that and then also what you posted about Zach Banner on the anniversary of your first day within the Steelers locker room.
Oh, that was another good one.
That was another good
one. Shout out to Zach Banner. For those of you who don't know that story, that's a good one. I could tell that one here. First day I ever walked into the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room, ever. I walk in, I look at Zach Banner. He looks at me. He says something to somebody next to him. He looks at me, goes, yo, nice. I had a man bun at the time. I had long hair. I had a man bun. Yep. He goes, yo, nice bun, because he had a bun too. I said, thanks, dude. Hopefully one day my bun's as good as your bun. He's like, yeah, we'll see. And then we stopped talking. He goes, yo, you dropped your pocket. And I looked, and he goes, let me know when you find that pocket. He never let me live that down, actually. 2-3 years, never once. Always asked me where that pocket was. So shout out Zach Banner, man. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, back then when you had long hair and I had short hair. So the only thing that hasn't changed is we both have beards.
Yes. Which I'm slowly working on the mustache, but we'll get there.
I'm telling you, by playoffs, it needs to happen. But why digress on that point? A lot of people want to know, Roman Wilson, first game coming up this weekend?
I don't think so. Just the vibe I'm getting is a no. We're still waiting on him. Still has a little bit of a ways to go when it comes to not just his catching up physically, but mentally as well, getting reps and getting geared into the offense as a whole. So I don't believe Roman plays this week. I think that they call up a running back and utilize them as the roster spot instead.
Let's go over to Vibin' with the Dogs, who wants to know, we talked a lot about Mason McCormick and how good he is in the run game. How is he in pass protection?
Yeah, he's definitely more of a run blocker than he is a pass blocker. Still not bad. I mean, to be honest, I'm waiting to see. You're playing in an FCS school. You played a little bit in the preseason and you looked impressive in the preseason, but like nothing crazy. It was just baseline level. Didn't look bad in the preseason games. We'll see what he's like against NFL talent in pass protection. I mean, he's as athletic as they come. I hope that he's smart enough and shifty enough to drop into pass coverage or into pass protection, excuse me. So we'll see. But again, you're judging from it. He went to South Dakota State where they ran the football all the time and he pulled all the time. He was a super athletic guard there. And he was super athletic for Pittsburgh last week too. He did some great things when it came to him having to move. We'll see what he's like in a phone booth when he has to pass protect this week.
Let's go over to Cody Silva, who has a similar question, but for somebody on the back end, saying, can Nick Herbig drop into coverage, or is he primarily a pass rusher?
So the big thing with Nick Herbig coming out of college was, is he going to play inside linebacker or outside linebacker? So he's definitely athletic and fast enough to play coverage. He's not the guy I'm worried about. He'll be fine in pass coverage, and the Steelers utilize their guys in pass coverage, but they make sure that their edge rushers don't really have too much to cover. It's just kind of like, hey, this is your ground. Make sure nobody throws a football here. And if they do throw a football here, make sure that you tackle the guy. It's not, most times very rarely, if ever, they will play man or have to take on somebody one-on-one. It's typically just a zone, and he'll be okay. DeMarvin Leal is the guy I'm looking to see in pass coverage. I want to see how he can do, because he's a big man dropping back, and I'm sure he can do it, but that's much different than TJ and Nick Herbig.
Let's go over to Carl Spackler, who said, who rushes for more, Anthony Richardson or Justin Fields this
Anthony
weekend?
Richardson. That's my answer. Only because Anthony Richardson is going to have to run for his life in this one. So I'm going to say 50 plus yards for Anthony Richardson potentially. And I would say 45-ish for Justin Fields.
Alrighty, let's go to AJ, who says, what do you guys think about Michael Thomas as a pickup? I know there's an injury history there, but he could be a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers reportedly talked to him during the offseason. I don't know what they're looking at right now. I don't know if they're even considering these guys. Michael Thomas, potentially. The problem with that is you're picking up a dude who hasn't played football in almost a year now. So what are you getting out of him? How ready is he and how much time is he going to need to step on the football field? Those are massive questions. And I get it. He is a dude who's played in the NFL for a long time, but you also have to just be conditioned enough to go, and you have to take some football hits to get ready. So I don't know that at this point they're looking for dudes off the street to come in here and play a contributing role before they run out of options for guys that are currently in the NFL.
Let's go over to Vintage, who says, who should I throw money on for an anytime touchdown this game? We'll never tell you how to spend your money, but who are you looking at for your own money, Noah, for this weekend?
Yeah. If I'm throwing an anytime touchdown on somebody, Najee Harris is he's going to run the football a lot more and hopefully has some openings. Justin Fields running a touchdown would be a good one. And then I'm telling you, dude, one of the normal guys, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, those Calvin Austin potentially again, simply because Kenny Moore is out of this ball game, which is going to play a factor in this one, but it could also play a factor in making Pat Freiermuth open. So those four would be my guys. Maybe eliminate Justin Fields, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Calvin Austin, George Pickens would be the dudes that I'd feel is worth the risk, but I don't know if I'm guaranteeing any of them.
X Concept says, Corliss Waitman anytime touchdown. What are the chances?
Oh, I mean, a billion to, if they didn't put Hot Rod on there last week, they're not putting Corliss Waitman. I'm going to say 1,000,000,000 to 1. And the answer is the 1.
Let's jump over to Chris. Appreciate you as always. Says, Noah, I can't understand why the Steelers haven't added a tackle like David Bakhtiari. I think the offensive line depth would be a wise precaution. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but there are a lot of factors that play into that. David Bakhtiari probably doesn't want to come to Pittsburgh and be a backup, and I believe that there will be other opportunities for him throughout the season. He also might not be 100% healthy and ready to go. Who knows? There are other names out there, but I think that they're more so like playoff guys, guys that you want to go out, Donovan Smith, that you want to go out and get later in the season to come in here and play for a Super Bowl run. Again, I think those guys are looking for starting opportunities or just like real late depth. But right now, the Steelers, while they're backed into a hole, they're not totally backed into a hole. Spencer Anderson is a quality swing tackle, and they have 2 starters, so they don't really need a David Bakhtiari just yet.
Let's go over to Hey Dags, who says, what is it going to take for Fields to be the, quote, solidified starter and Najee to get a deal?
Najee isn't getting a deal. That's just not going to happen. I'm going to stick to that until I can't stick to that anymore. The Steelers just aren't going to give Najee Harris the money that he's going to be worth at the end of the season. Najee Harris is going to want the money at the end of the season, as he rightfully should. It's just not going to work out for both sides. When it comes to Fields to be a solidified starter, I don't know if that happens either. I think that what he's done so far is good enough to make him the solidified starter, but Mike Tomlin does not agree with that. So I don't know. I look at it and just say that this is a train that we're going to have to ride for the rest of the season, with Justin as the quote unquote number 2 and Russ as the quote unquote number 1, and Mike Tomlin giving us the craziest runarounds he could come up with on a week-to-week basis so that we continue to have this conversation.
Alexander says this season is a key opportunity for Mike Tomlin to prove that even if he's seen as a, quote, stuck in his ways type coach, he can still win with the right pieces. What are your thoughts on that opportunity?
Yeah, Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for that. I think it's also a good opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers to show to Mike Tomlin. And this is nothing against Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin's a great coach. I wouldn't fire Mike Tomlin. I've always been pro keep Mike Tomlin. I think Steelers fans who don't want Mike Tomlin do not realize that most times when you change a head coach, you lose. The way I look at it is this is a good opportunity for Mike Tomlin to also realize that him being stuck in his ways for so long held the Steelers back. And this is what happens when you kind of give a little bit and you allow things to expand and you to change your ways. I think it's a lesson to the entire Pittsburgh Steelers organization, because I don't think it's just Mike Tomlin who's stuck in his ways. I think it's Art Rooney and everybody else. I think this is a good season to just showcase, hey, look at guys, if we work with the times, if we make adjustments, if we give up on people when we should give up on people, good things tend to work out.
Let's go over to Lifted Ones, who wants to know, no disrespect to KP8 or Matt Canada, but how are the vibes in the locker room in comparison to last season?
Much better. Definitely much better. There's no, the press conferences are good. The vibes are good. The people are good. Everybody's smiling. The music's happy. Nobody's asking the same questions on a week-to-week basis. That's how you know things are good. When you have press conferences and you're not sitting there asking about offensive identity, or do you trust your quarterback, or do you trust your offensive coordinator, and you get to ask things like, yo, how much fun you guys having right now? And do you think you're going to run? And Justin Fields gets to talk about his crazy TJ Watt pregame speech situation, which did you watch? Did you finish?
I did. I finished that episode, and 10 out of 10 peak podcasting by the Not Just Football podcast with Cam Hayward.
Yeah, 100%. And that story is so awesome. I actually talked to Justin about it, and he was like, dude, it was indescribable. It was like a movie. I was like, that's awesome. But yeah, the vibes this year compared to really just the past couple of years is, I mean, right now they're great, but it's early. It's only 3-0.
Chris Zombie, let's jump down to him. Appreciate you. Says, with Warren out, do I pick up Patterson on waivers?
No. I mean, I wouldn't have Jaylen Warren on my team, but I think there are better options than Cordero Patterson. I also think that Jaylen Warren will be back in a couple of weeks, or, you know, he'll be bouncing back and forth, active, inactive. You never know. Cordero is not going to be worth it. He doesn't have the upside. You know, maybe for this week, if you just want a guy, sure, he'll get you some points. If you're in PPR, he'll catch some passes. But I think there are better options out there, hopefully, in your league than both Jaylen Warren and Cordero Patterson.
Let's go over to Vintage, who says, I'm thinking about getting a ticket for the Steelers versus Jets game. Should I look for tickets around the 50, or what's a good view for a first-time game?
Heinz Field, there are no bad seats. There really aren't. Acrisure Stadium is great seats all around. If you're going to the Jets game, it's still warm enough where you could sit up high, and not get frozen to death. You're not going to go wrong. You know, no matter what seats you get, you're not going to go wrong. I will say the lower bowl is incredible. The vibes are immaculate, and, you know, the fan base is crazy, so you get to witness it all. But it's the same thing when you go up top. It's still pretty nuts. If you could afford it, if the prices aren't crazy, the lower bowl is where you're at. But I don't think you got to be at the 50. I think you could be anywhere.
Let's go over to D, who says, how long is Alex Highsmith out for?
From what I've been told, it'll be just after the Cowboys game. They'll make a decision on when he's coming back. But this week and next week, he will not be playing. And then they'll reassess in 2 weeks.
Let's go over to Leandrew then, who says, do you think Fields will have more passing yards on Sunday than he had against the Chargers whenever he threw for 245 yards?
Ooh, 240 is a good number. Like 240s, that's tough to pass. Like, it's not, if you threw for 225, it's not like that's a bad game. 240 is a great game through the air. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he has less than 240, but a more impressive 240, if that's even possible, because he was very impressive against the Chargers.
I would just go under simply because the Chargers were supposed to be this run heavy team.
Yeah.
But they have Justin Herbert. So in the first half, it was pass.
Yeah.
I like Anthony Richardson, but I think they're actually going to go through with relying on Jonathan Taylor early in this game. So I think it's going to be a lot of running. I think the clock's going to go out. The time of possession is going to be a little bit more balanced. Hopefully. I mean, who knows? We went through that stat earlier in the week.
I was going to say no chance.
We'll see. But I do think that because they're so run heavy, I think it's going to limit the amount of opportunities Fields has. So I'd go under. If that was a bet, if that was the line at 245, I would go under 245.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think I'd go under with any quarterback at 245.
Especially this year. I mean, across the board, passing yards, offense in general is down. So
yeah, agreed.
Not fun to bet the under, but might be the better, the smarter option, better for the wallet.
Yep.
Let's go over to X Concepts, who says, do you think Scotty Miller gets more opportunities on Sunday? And do you think Roman gets a helmet? We answered the second one. You think it's unlikely, but what do you think about Scotty?
Yeah, I don't think Roman gets a helmet, and I think Scotty's opportunities do grow this week. I mean, not by much. I thought he had a good chunk of opportunities in this one, but I believe the Steelers saw that this dude could be somewhat valuable, and they want to utilize him. So I see Scotty getting a little bit more of an opportunity this week. I don't know if he comes up with more catches or not, but I see him being on the field a little bit more, and them trying to work him in for sure. Could take away from a guy like Van Jefferson, but I do think the Steelers are going to play around with their wide receivers and just see where they could find the right mixes as they move forward. And I think Scotty Miller is going to be involved in trying to find that.
Let's go over to Robert Baxter, who says, should we consider keeping Dan Moore as good as he has become?
I think right now, no, but maybe. This is the beginning. He's looked very good. He's taken a step forward, certainly. He is nowhere near as bad as people have wanted to make him. For the last 2 years, he's nowhere near as bad as people have wanted to make him. I look at it right now and say it's too early in the season to be thinking about Dan Moore's future. If it ended today, you think about it, yes, and you say, what's that deal look like? But it's got to make sense for both sides. Maybe a 1-year deal, but I think Dan might be a guy that some team somewhere is going to look at and say, you should be a starter for us, and we're going to pay you accordingly, and go get that deal if you're Dan Moore.
Let's go over to the Navagamer, who says, what do you make of James Daniels being the highest rated guard in the league? Do you re-sign him?
I say no. I also, is that PFF who named him the highest rated guard in the league? It'd have to be, right? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think James Daniels is playing good last week, but Denver, he played terrible. Atlanta, everybody played pretty okay, I would say. I'm not thinking about re-signing him right now, because if Mason McCormick turns out to be great, he's your starter next year on the opposite side of Isaac Seumalo. So the answer to that right now in my head is no. What do I think about him being the highest rated guard? I'm glad that he balled out against Los Angeles. Like, I'm glad that he had a bounce back game from Denver. He's not somebody that I think stinks. He's not somebody that I think deserves to be bashed every single week. He's not somebody that should be benched or considered to be benched. He's a reliable offensive lineman who struggled in Denver, and I'm glad he had a bounce back week this week.
Let's go to Quentin, who says, how is this start any different than the 2020-21 season?
This is a great question, and I'm very grateful that you brought this up. How is this different than 2020, 2021? The biggest difference is the defense. I mean, hands down, the defense, but also just how the Steelers are winning right now is different. They won in 2020, 2021 because Ben Roethlisberger was the dude and made sure that he was, well, the dude. And they had great wide receivers. Their running game was James Conner, and, it did what it could. It tried their hardest. And I mean, I think that was one of his 1,000-yard seasons, or pretty close to one of his 1,000-yard seasons. But just overall, like, that offense was built with superstars, but they didn't have the coaching. Now they have the coaching, the defensive superstars, and the offense that is willing to grow and not lose football games. And I just think that's the biggest difference, is you're not going to find yourselves in situations where things are going to fall apart. And in 2020, 2021, things fell apart, and they didn't have the coaching to pick it back up. I get what Mike Tomlin is. I understand that, but you need offensive and defensive coordinators. We've seen that for certain over the last couple of years, and the Steelers didn't have them. So right now, this year, it's Arthur Smith can adjust and make sure that his offense continues to grow, or at least gets right back onto a winning path. And Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin could do the same on defense, plus they have the superstars to do it. So coaching is different, and I think that's the biggest difference of 2020, 2021.
Let's close it out with the biggest question facing the universe right now. Chase wants to know, what are the ingredients to a hot dog?
You know, I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows what the ingredients are to the hot dog. I'll give you a parlay to end the week, and that's what I'm going to hit with, because I wasn't expecting this question, but screw it. We'll pull it up and we'll see what we could do. I got to talk a little bit as I try to find the. I don't even think I could do this. Can you make a bet on your laptop? Can you do this?
You should be able to if you log into your account.
I can't. I don't know passwords, man. I have no idea what my passwords are.
You don't have a list somewhere?
No, I do have a
No?
list. It's on my phone, which is sitting in front of me as my camera.
Fair
So
enough.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Thought I had a good one. Didn't have a good one. I'll try to come up with something, but I don't know the ingredients to the hot dog. That's a beautiful question, and I appreciate it.
That's a wrap for today then. Yep.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back on Monday, but don't forget to check out all of our clips throughout the weekend. And then obviously our walk over on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk on Sunday morning. With that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.